Princess Caroline of Monaco is the living embodiment of old-world royalty entangled with modern sorrow. Born into the dazzling spotlight as the daughter of Grace Kelly, she inherited a legacy steeped in glamour, prestige, and pain. Her life has unfolded like a cinematic epic, where privilege and tragedy collide, and where the crown weighs heavier with every personal loss. Through heartbreak, scandal, and the unyielding glare of the public eye, Caroline has endured with quiet strength, carrying the burden of the Grimaldi name with a grace that few could match. Princess Caroline Louise Marguerite was born on January 23, 1957, in Monaco, the eldest child of one of the 20th century's most captivating couples, Grace Kelly, the Oscar-winning American actress who had captured hearts in Alfred Hitchcock films, and Prince Rainier III of Monaco, the sovereign of the Mediterranean Principality. Her birth represented the perfect fusion of Hollywood glamour and European aristocracy, a union that had already captivated the world when her parents married in what was dubbed the wedding of the century in 1956. From her earliest moments, Caroline was destined for a life lived in the spotlight. Her mother, Grace Kelly, had abandoned her illustrious Hollywood career at its peak to become Princess of Monaco, bringing with her an aura of cinematic magic that transformed the tiny principality into a glittering destination for the international elite. Her father, Prince Rainier III, was a shrewd ruler who understood the power of celebrity and glamour in elevating Monaco's profile on the world stage. Caroline, as their firstborn, became the living symbol of this extraordinary union. Growing up in the opulent surroundings of the Prince's Palace of Monaco, Caroline's childhood was anything but ordinary. She was raised alongside her younger siblings, Prince Albert, born in 1958, and Princess Stephanie, born in 1965, in an environment where fairy tale luxury met the demanding expectations of royal protocol. The palace, perched dramatically on the Rock of Monaco overlooking the Mediterranean, provided a stunning backdrop for a childhood that was simultaneously privileged and scrutinized. The world watched Caroline's every move from her earliest years. Photographers captured her first steps, her school performances, and her family vacations. Grace Kelly, despite her royal duties, remained deeply committed to providing her children with as normal an upbringing as possible within the constraints of their extraordinary circumstances. She emphasized education, culture, and the importance of giving back to society, values that would profoundly shape Caroline's character and future role. Despite the constant media attention, Caroline proved herself to be far more than just a pretty face in a tiara. Her intellectual curiosity and academic achievements set her apart from many of her royal contemporaries. After completing her secondary education, she enrolled at the prestigious Sorbonne in Paris, where she pursued an ambitious course of study that reflected both her broad interests and her serious commitment to learning. Her years in Paris provided Caroline with a taste of relative freedom from the constant scrutiny she faced in Monaco. The anonymity of student life, however brief and limited, allowed her to develop her own identity beyond her royal titles. She formed lasting friendships with fellow students and developed a deep appreciation for French culture and intellectualism that would influence her throughout her life. Caroline's first foray into marriage became a media sensation that foreshadowed the intense scrutiny she would face throughout her personal life. In 1978, at the age of 21, she married Philippe Junot, a French businessman and socialite who was 17 years her senior. The wedding, held in Monaco's throne room, was a grand affair that attracted international attention, but from the beginning, the match was controversial. Junot, known for his playboy lifestyle and previous relationships, was viewed with suspicion by both the media and many members of Monaco's society. He represented a departure from the traditional royal marriage pattern, being neither titled nobility nor from an established royal house. The couple's relationship had been passionate and whirlwind, but it soon became apparent that their different approaches to life and duty would create insurmountable tensions. The marriage was subjected to relentless media coverage, with every public appearance analyzed for signs of trouble. Paparazzi followed the couple constantly, documenting their travels, their social activities, and their interactions with each other. This intense scrutiny put enormous pressure on an already challenging relationship, as Caroline struggled to balance her royal duties with her role as Junot's wife. The fundamental incompatibility between Caroline's sense of duty and royal responsibility and Junot's more casual approach to protocol and commitment became increasingly apparent. While Caroline understood that her every action reflected on the House of Grimaldi and the Principality of Monaco, Junot seemed less concerned with these considerations. Their different priorities and values created a rift that widened over time. After just 2 years of marriage, Caroline and Junot divorced in 1980. The dissolution of the marriage was handled with as much dignity as possible, but it nonetheless represented a public failure that was dissected endlessly in the international press. For Caroline, the experience was both personally painful and professionally instructive, teaching her valuable lessons about the challenges of maintaining private relationships under public scrutiny. The defining tragedy of Caroline's early adulthood came on September 14, 1982, when her mother, Princess Grace, died in a devastating car accident on the winding roads of the French Riviera. The loss was not only personally catastrophic for Caroline, but also marked a turning point in her life and her role within the Grimaldi family. Grace Kelly had been more than just Caroline's mother. She had been her role model, mentor, and closest confidant. Grace had navigated the transition from Hollywood stardom to royal duty with remarkable grace and dignity, and she had worked tirelessly to instill these same qualities in her children. Her sudden death at the age of 52 left a void that could never be filled, both in Caroline's personal life and in Monaco's royal family. The world's media descended on Monaco in the aftermath of the accident, turning Caroline's grief into a public spectacle. In the wake of her mother's death, Caroline was forced to assume many of the royal duties that Grace had previously handled. At just 25 years old, she found herself thrust into a position of unprecedented responsibility within the Principality. She had to represent Monaco at state functions, oversee charitable organizations, and maintain the cultural and social programs that her mother had championed, all while dealing with her own profound grief. The loss of Grace Kelly also meant that Caroline became the primary female figure in the Grimaldi family, a role that brought with it enormous expectations and responsibilities. She had to serve not only as a representative of Monaco, but also as a surrogate mother figure to her younger sister Stephanie, who was particularly affected by their mother's death. This additional burden of family responsibility further complicated Caroline's already challenging position. In the midst of her grief and increased royal responsibilities, Caroline found love again with Stefano Casiraghi, a handsome Italian businessman and heir to a substantial industrial fortune. Their romance, which began in the mid-1980s, seemed to offer Caroline the chance for genuine happiness and personal fulfillment that had eluded her in her first marriage. Casiraghi was everything that Junot had not been: serious, committed to family, and respectful of Caroline's royal position and duties. He was also a successful entrepreneur in his own right, with interests in construction and real estate that complemented rather than competed with Caroline's royal obligations. Their relationship developed naturally and authentically, away from the intense media circus that had surrounded her first marriage. The couple married in a civil ceremony in Monaco on December 29, 1983, followed by a religious ceremony the following year. Unlike her first wedding, this marriage was approached with more maturity and less fanfare, though it still attracted significant international attention. Caroline, now 26, seemed to have found the stability and partnership she had been seeking. Their marriage quickly became known as a fairy tale romance, not because it was perfect, but because it appeared to be built on genuine love, mutual respect, and shared values. Casiraghi embraced his role as a member of the Grimaldi family, supporting Caroline in her royal duties while maintaining his own business interests. He understood the unique pressures of royal life and provided Caroline with the emotional support she needed to continue carrying out her extensive responsibilities. The couple's happiness was evident to those around them, and they quickly became one of Europe's most admired royal couples. They shared a love of outdoor activities, sports, and travel, and they seemed to complement each other perfectly. Casiraghi's Italian warmth and business acumen balanced Caroline's French sophistication and royal dignity. Together, Caroline and Stefano had 3 children: Andrea, born in 1984, Charlotte, born in 1986, and Pierre, born in 1987. The birth of each child seemed to deepen their happiness and strengthen their bond. Caroline appeared to have achieved the perfect balance between her public duties and private fulfillment, raising her children while continuing to serve Monaco with distinction. Tragedy struck again in Caroline's life on October 3, 1990, when Stefano Casiraghi was killed in a speedboat racing accident off the coast of Monaco. He was participating in the World Offshore Powerboat Championship when his boat hit the wake of another vessel and became airborne, crashing back into the water with fatal force. He was just 30 years old, and his death left Caroline widowed at 33, with 3 young children to raise alone. The loss of Stefano was devastating on multiple levels. Caroline had not only lost her husband and the love of her life, but her children had lost their father, and Monaco had lost a valuable member of its royal family. The accident occurred during what should have been a routine sporting event, making the tragedy all the more shocking and senseless. Caroline's grief was compounded by the fact that she now faced the enormous challenge of raising 3 young children while continuing to fulfill her royal duties. Andrea was only 6 years old, Charlotte was 4, and Pierre was just 3 when their father died. As a single mother in one of the world's most scrutinized royal families, Caroline had to find the strength to be both mother and father to her children while maintaining her public responsibilities. The international media, while generally respectful of Caroline's grief, continued to follow her every move during this difficult period. Every public appearance was analyzed for signs of how she was coping with her loss, and speculation about her future plans became a constant source of press coverage. Despite this pressure, Caroline maintained her characteristic dignity and grace, shielding her children from the worst of the media attention while gradually resuming her royal duties. Stefano's death also marked another turning point in Caroline's relationship with the public. Her strength in the face of such profound loss earned her widespread admiration and respect. She became seen not just as a glamorous royal figure, but as a woman of substance who could endure tremendous personal tragedy while continuing to serve others. In the years following Stefano's death, Caroline increasingly became recognized as the true backbone of the Grimaldi family. With her father Prince Rainier aging and her brother Albert not yet ready to assume full royal responsibilities, Caroline stepped forward to carry much of the burden of representing Monaco on the international stage. Her role expanded far beyond the traditional duties of a princess. She became Monaco's cultural ambassador, representing the principality at major international events, overseeing charitable organizations, and maintaining the relationships with world leaders and cultural figures that are essential to Monaco's continued prosperity and relevance. Her education at the Sorbonne proved invaluable in these roles, as she could engage with dignitaries and intellectuals on equal terms. Caroline's approach to her royal duties was marked by the same dignity and grace that had characterized her mother's reign. She understood that every appearance, every speech, and every charitable endeavor reflected not only on herself, but on the entire Principality of Monaco. This sense of responsibility drove her to maintain the highest standards in all her public activities. Her work with various charitable organizations became particularly notable during this period. Caroline lent her name and her time to causes ranging from children's welfare to cultural preservation, always ensuring that her involvement was substantive rather than merely ceremonial. She understood that her royal status gave her a platform that could be used to make a real difference in people's lives. As the years passed, Caroline's role as the family's anchor became even more apparent. She provided stability and continuity during times of change and challenge, always putting the needs of the family and the principality ahead of her own personal desires. Her sacrifice and dedication did not go unnoticed by those around her or by the people of Monaco, who came to regard her with deep respect and affection. The relationship between Caroline and her younger sister, Princess Stephanie, has always been a subject of fascination for royal watchers, as the two sisters represent almost opposite approaches to royal life and public responsibility. While Caroline embodied dignity, reserve, and dutiful service, Stephanie pursued a more rebellious path that often put her at odds with royal protocol and family expectations. Caroline's reserved, dignified demeanor stood in stark contrast to Stephanie's more spontaneous and sometimes controversial public behavior. Where Caroline carefully considered every public appearance and statement, Stephanie seemed to embrace spontaneity and authentic self-expression, regardless of the potential consequences for the royal family's image. This contrast became particularly pronounced after their mother's death, when both sisters were dealing with grief and the increased scrutiny that came with their elevated roles in the family. Caroline channeled her emotions into increased dedication to duty and family responsibility, while Stephanie sought outlets in music, modeling, and relationships that often attracted negative media attention. Despite their different approaches to public life, Caroline maintained a protective and supportive relationship with her sister. She understood that Stephanie's rebellious streak was, in part, a response to the enormous pressures of royal life and the trauma of losing their mother at such a young age. Caroline often served as a mediating influence between Stephanie and their father, helping to smooth over conflicts and maintain family unity. Caroline's ability to maintain her dignity and composure while supporting her more volatile sister demonstrated her maturity and her deep commitment to family loyalty. She never publicly criticized Stephanie's choices, instead focusing on her own responsibilities and setting an example of steady, reliable royal service. Throughout all the personal tragedies and professional challenges, Caroline maintained her status as one of the world's most fashionable royals. Her style evolution from young princess to mature royal has been closely watched and widely admired by fashion enthusiasts around the globe. Caroline's fashion sense combined classic elegance with contemporary sophistication, reflecting both her royal status and her personal taste. She favored designers who understood the need for clothes that were both beautiful and appropriate for her various roles, whether she was attending a state dinner, visiting a charitable organization, or appearing at a cultural event. Her influence on fashion extended beyond her own wardrobe choices. As a regular attendee at major fashion shows and a patron of several designers, Caroline helped to bridge the gap between high fashion and royal protocol. She demonstrated that royal dressing could be both appropriate and exciting, inspiring other royal women to take more adventurous approaches to their own style choices. Caroline's fashion choices were also notable for their consistency and sophistication. Unlike some royal figures who seemed to follow every trend, Caroline developed a personal style that evolved naturally over time, while maintaining certain consistent elements that became her signature. This approach to fashion reflected her broader approach to life: thoughtful, consistent, and always appropriate to the occasion. Her status as a fashion icon also served a diplomatic purpose, as her appearances at international events helped to reinforce Monaco's image as a center of luxury and sophistication. Her clothes became a form of soft diplomacy, communicating Monaco's values and aspirations to the world. Today, Princess Caroline of Monaco stands as a remarkable example of resilience, duty, and grace under extraordinary pressure. Her life story encompasses the full spectrum of human experience: privilege and loss, love and tragedy, public service and private grief. Through it all, she has maintained a dignity and composure that has earned her respect far beyond Monaco's borders. Her influence on the Grimaldi family and the Principality of Monaco cannot be overstated. She has served as a bridge between the glamorous era of her mother's reign and the modern challenges facing contemporary royal families. Her dedication to duty, combined with her intellectual sophistication and personal warmth, has helped to ensure that Monaco remains relevant and respected in an ever-changing world.